Hello, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Oh my God, guess what?
It's
It's
that day again.
it's Saturday and it's October. I can't fucking believe it's October.
I tell you what, man, my phone is sorry, my phone just started like going crazy for some reason. We
Because it's
started the
Halloween.
episode and the voice commands just decided to open up like five things I didn't need. So I
That
tell you
was
what, technology is scary.
it was a ghost. It's October.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is
It
crazy
is.
because this is the first year I have like a whole ass house that's mine to decorate. Like I've always dreamed of the day when I
Oh
own a
no.
piece of property that I can decorate for Halloween. And now that I have that, I don't know what to do.
Well, it's interesting because yeah, I didn't even think about that, and you because you were in an apartment for
Yeah, and
the
now I'm
whole
just
time you're
in
in
my own
Colorado.
house. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
my family and I own it. Like, I mean, I could do whatever the hell I want to, you know?
that's neat. Well, you should just
I
find
found some
some.
neon signs that are pretty cool for the window, so I think
Ooh.
I'm gonna do that.
Oh, that'll be fun. What kind of neon signs are we talking about here?
There's like one that's like a
Service, like say service in the rear, or what's that?
yes, open
Is that
24/7. No,
ooh?
somebody in our complex though, they have those signs. They have like a bunch of ones as if it's like a bar.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. No, there's this really cool like pumpkin thing that lights up, and then a little cat at Target, and I feel like I could stick two of those in one window. But then I feel like there's a lot more I should be doing. Like, you know what I mean? But also, kids can't trick or treat here this year.
What? Kids aren't allowed trick or treat.
It is way too unsafe in Los Angeles to trick or treat. Because speaking from Los Angeles's perspective, like I don't know what it's like in Colorado right now, but everyone in Los Angeles just has been ignoring every single precaution and partying still, and so it's still really bad out here. And they've kind of
Ooh.
just been like all the like young kids who want to party and go to fucking bars, like they fucking ruined it for everybody.
Oh, geez,
They
that's
can't spend
unfortunate.
5 minutes just at home.
That's terrible. Usually, getting trick-or-treaters is a blast. I mean,
Right?
I know the past couple years, I've been I've been doing home. Well, yeah, I've been doing home. Well, actually, 2 years ago, I didn't. I wasn't even home. I was out trick-or-treating, um,
Oh.
walking around with my niece, and
Oh.
then last year, I know I was doing. I was writing a. Yeah, I was in the middle of doing homework. I was I remember I was in the middle of putting out working on a paper or something, and so I was running back and forth from the from from where I was, like from my kitchen island, all the way to the front door to hand candy to kids, and then run back to the kitchen island and belt out a couple sentences before the doorbell rang again. But
That
so
is so cute. I was sad because at the apartment complex, everyone would just fucking leave to go to bigger neighborhoods.
yeah.
Everyone would leave to go to that like section of the Springs that's like where all the rich people are. I'm
Hmm.
forgetting what it's called. It's like that
Broadmoor.
area between downtown and like it's the area between Colorado College and like where UCCS is.
Oh, the old West End.
Yeah, yeah. So everybody would just
Oh,
leave to go
I'm
there.
sorry, the old North End, the old North End.
Yeah, yeah,
My
that's
bad,
what it's
my
called.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
So like,
Seaside neighborhood and South and
mhm.
downtown and stuff. Yeah, the
Yeah.
old North End is where a lot of people like to go trick or treat.
Oh yeah, everybody would just go there. But last year, I got like a single group of kids, and they were all dressed as the kids from Stranger Things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cute. That was the only group I got, so they got like a ton of stuff. But like,
That's always fun. Yeah, I think also last year, I mean, it was, if I remember, it was pretty cold out, and then I think
mhm.
it was a weeknight or something like that too. So, um, yeah, it was definitely because I didn't get as many as I
Yeah,
used to
did it
get.
snow? I want to say or something like that, or was
No,
about to.
that was no, it didn't. But it may have it may have a few days later, but
Gotcha.
otherwise, yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. But
This
I'm
year,
looking forward to them this year because I mean Halloween's on a Saturday,
mhm.
so that night, um, it'll be nice to hook some kids up because
Yeah, because I
yeah,
was preparing. I was like, I'll get the big candy bars, and then whenever a kid knocks, I'll wipe them off and give them to it. You know what I mean? But yeah,
yeah.
LA, they just shut it down, which makes sense with considering how people were acting. Like, you know what I
Uh,
mean?
Yeah,
They
it's
ruined it for the
unfortunate.
kids.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when that happens. Fortunately, at school net right now, I mean,
Oh God, yeah, I'm so
everybody's
glad my
doing a good
sister's at
job.
home. My sister's high school just had their first case. They
Oh
just
wow.
had like, and like so. I mean, like to be like nobody's been like they've just been continuing on and not really enforcing anything. So it was kind of just like one of those things where it was a matter of time. But
Hmm.
she's been online this whole time, so I don't have to worry about her being safe or not. So that's good. But
Oh yeah, it's fortunately at the college, it's been, the only cases that would come up have been commuter students. There's been nothing on campus thus far, and
hey, that's good.
which is good. And everybody's, I mean, as frustrating as the masks are and everything, everybody's doing a good job and, showing up to class and wearing their masks the whole time and not
Yeah, because you guys
pissing or
realize it's
moaning
like a
about it.
temporary thing. You know what I
You,
mean?
you hope so, but I mean, it's just you can tell to where it's just starting to wear on people,
Hmm.
just because folks just have trouble talking through them and stuff, and it's hard to read the class too when you
Hmm.
can't see facial expressions or how people are especially in film classes too, like having to sit in there and just you're literally just breathing into a mask for
Oh
almost
yeah.
3 hours, so it's just, oh, it gets, I mean, yeah, there's times during class, like during TA times, that I'll just step out and just go sit outside for 10 minutes just to pull my mask down and breathe, but
Mm.
that's if we don't have wildfire smoke puffing in. So
Which is a whole yeah,
oh,
right. Oh my God.
the wildfire smoke is just miserable right now. It's like and this is the time of year in Colorado, as you know, that it's nice to open up the doors and windows during the day and let the fresh air blow through the house. But now, if you do it, you're going to have a sore throat in 5 minutes with all the
Yeah.
wildfire smoke coming through.
It was rough, like, because we had this issue a couple weeks ago where, like, our thermostat broke and
Oh,
the house was like 80 degrees and they couldn't get
oh,
out until the next day. And so we had to have the windows open, but the smoke was really bad and it was just a mess for like
oh,
2 days
jeez.
there. But it's okay. I mean, I was lucky because, like, I found like two different hikes, right? So I just like switched between the both of them. Like one of them is by the ocean and one of them is through this cemetery where a bunch of old Hollywood people are buried. And
Hmm.
like it's great cuz like anytime I go there's like no one around, so I don't have to worry about anybody, but I have to worry about the smoke for one of them. Like the ocean it's fine cuz like you're literally right like 2 steps away from the ocean, so like it kind of gets filtered out a bit, I guess. It's not
Hmm.
as bad, but like yeah, it's smoke is rough.
Yes, it is. I'm tired of breathing it. I'm ready for some weather.
Tea. Yeah. Okay, well speaking of the good, the bad, and the ugly with
Yes,
in the world,
yes.
what are we talking about today, Nick?
Well, you brought it in, the good, the bad, and the bludgeoned. I thought it would be neat for us to talk about some remakes through that have gone on, a little bit in our time, but not too many of them because there really aren't. There's so many remakes that have been made just over and over and over and over that like A Star Is Born or something like that, where it's like I don't even want to waste time talking about that shit. Um, so I was just kind of dabbling around, and I was like, I knew some of these that you would be able to offer some good counterpoint, and so I just went threw them together, and I'm like, there's good
Ah,
remakes, but then there's like, man, there's been some really bad remakes too, where it's kind of like, where you're going, Why'd you have to go and fuck a good thing
we're
up?
like, what is going on here? Because
It's
okay,
it's tough.
to really quickly put this out there, right? I
Yep.
don't mind the idea of like just to like define our terms because I know you probably feel pretty similar, Nick, but I don't actually mind the idea of a remake, the idea of like, let's put this thing that's contextualized in a different time, let's do it in another time so more people can relate to blah, blah, blah. I don't mind that idea of a remake, right? But like,
Mhm.
sometimes I just am like the priorities and the decisions to remake certain things or the choices they make in the remake sometimes just are surprising to me. Like because I feel like 9 out of 10 times it's not that. You know what I mean? It's not the like, let's update this so a new audience can enjoy it, because the other one is so coded in its time that it can't properly be enjoyed. Like, you never really get that, even though that's the kind of remake I'm okay with. It's more just like, I don't want to be that film person, but it's more just like, this is an easy way to get people into theaters again.
Exactly.
Or like, this is an easy way to sell a movie, or blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Which is
Yep.
interesting, because you have something like James Bond, which is a franchise that's essentially just like a franchise comprised of remakes. And that kind of thing works, but some of these remakes don't work, and so it's just a whole kind of clusterfuck when we talk about remakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is because, you bring up a good point. It's when it's done proper,
Hmm.
um, it's it's attractive, it feels right. It kind of nestles in, and sometimes, there's stuff that they remake, and it's just so much more better, and it attains this level of iconicity, um that's rare, so that's why I think, like you're saying, we can we could go on and on and on about terrible remakes, because
Hmm.
as you alluded to, about 9 times out of 10, that's what you get, and I think that's why the super good remakes, the ones that are really special, are just so few and far between,
Yeah.
and so I think that's kind of like where in a sense, we're looking at more, in this, when you're looking at the 90%, of just the bad ones, where you're just kind of like, why'd you have to go and do that? um we can kind of cherry pick where it's either, they tried to remake something that was already the work of an auteur,
Hmm.
that they tried to remake stuff that was, sci-fi and cult classic, that they tried to remake stuff that was, you know, comedy classic. I mean,
Yeah.
and such. And then just you get into like the uh, the bigger companies, into their mechanisms and what they do. So it's just kind of like one of those things. Um, but to kind of like jump into that, one of those
Oh,
things where
really
you
quick,
sit
before
there
you
and,
are you transitioning into movies?
well, yeah, because I was
Okay,
gonna throw
cool,
Psycho
perfect.
at you.
Yes,
Is
let's
what I
do
was
it.
gonna,
Let's do it. So
because that's what I was saying. Looking at the auteur, and there's a couple auteurs we'll discuss in this, but we'll kind of split them up. But yeah, the first one, I mean, you have Hitchcock and you have the original Psycho, which is just such an incredible piece. We ended up with that remake.
what is it? Okay, this is
It's Vince
sacrilegious.
Vaughn. Vince Vaughn,
No, but I mean,
right?
who directed it? It was like
I, I
Gus.
I don't even want to look.
Okay, no, that's fine. 'Cause, so I'm gonna say something, and this is gonna, like, all the film people are gonna be like, "What?" I saw this Psycho before I saw the Hitchcock one.
Oh, gee,
This is the
really?
first Psycho I saw. Like, yeah, my mom showed me this one before the other one, which,
W-
like, I
Was it a
had the same
mistake? Or
exact, like, I feel like I had the same response as I would have to the original, but like, I do like the original Psycho 10 times more, and it's still effective for me, but like, I just don't know what the point of it is. Like, it's like, let's do a shot for shot, completely the same, except we get more jerk off movements, like Psycho movie. But it's like the exact same thing, just in color. I'm like, I don't know why. Like,
yeah,
like the
it's
badness, the awkwardness of it aside, I don't know why it happened.
yeah, yeah. There's really, that's the most confusing piece about it, is you're just kind of sitting there just going, why? What was the point?
Because
Was
like,
there
because like,
what's
you okay, I
they're
could
gonna
get it if
gain?
somebody was like somebody was like, well, it's meant to subvert the original by
No,
doing the exact same thing but in color, and I don't
no.
know if that's enough to subvert the
Yeah,
original.
it's puke worthy. It's just
It's
disgusting. And
so
then there's this other one. This one really upset me because I grew up on like Total Recall. with Schwarzenegger and Sharon Stone. I mean, that was just
Mhm.
an iconic film at the time, and it's just, I mean, we all know Arnie, that was just his wheelhouse time. You know, I mean, he was doing, Raw Deal. He was doing Predator. He was doing all of his freaking crazy action roles, Commando. I mean, Arnold was just going nuts during the time. I mean, he was flexing with like Danny DeVito, and shit, twins, and then he was doing other stuff. But I mean, a lot of this Running Man, which was earlier on, but he's doing like all this crazy shit, Conan and stuff. And Total Recall was just a killer film for me. But then they remade it, and they did it, and that I'm okay with Colin Farrell, like this because
Yeah.
I've talked about him at length, and when we've talked about like European film and stuff, and his stuff in like The Lobster and in Bruges and everything, and but gosh, that Total Recall, it just it upset me so much, because it to me, Schwarzenegger's Total Recall, that was a one-off. Like that's all you needed to do. There
Mhm.
was no reason you needed to redo that. But then they did it again.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I saw the remake trailers. I've never seen either Total Recall, but I remember with seeing the trailer for the remake back in the day in the theaters, and everyone was so viscerally upset about
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
it.
So it's so freaking upsetting, and it's just it's exactly what you talked about.
Mhm.
It was one of those things where they probably went, "Hey, this guy," because I think that was like around the time that he had done, what was that, Phone Booth or something like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Farrell and a few other films, and he was this up and comer. So somebody said, "All right, let's put our fingers down our throat, and purge up a new Total Recall." And that's what they did. This is bulimic cinema. If sorry, that's a fucked up way to put it,
Well,
but
no, but where do you think where do you think they went wrong?
I just, to
I'm
me, it's
curious.
it's very much like the point you emphasized with Psycho is that I saw it and I just went, there was no point.
Yeah.
Um, there really was, and that's the same thing for the next one as well with Point Break. I mean,
Yes, yes,
oh
yes.
my God, Point Break with Keanu Reeves and
Reason
Patrick
Patrick Swayze,
Swayze and
yeah.
Lori Petty. I mean, Gary Busey.
It's
Holy
like they saw
shit,
Point Break
dude.
and they were like, let's make it a normal, like,
Oh,
two hot guys action movie.
what a fuck up. I mean, that upset me so much because god damn, the original Point Break is it's just so it's a one off.
Yeah.
It's another one off. It is just so effing good. I mean, I fucking love that film. And it's just God, man, look, Johnny Utah, it's just and Lori Petty plays. It's one of my favorite films that Lori Petty's ever been into. Um, like she does not get enough credit for that role that she does in that film. And I mean, aside, like I think it's actually I love Patrick Swayze. He didn't have too many roles, and a lot of people swing to Dirty Dancing, and such. And Roadhouse is, just such a hyper testosterone guy thriller film, that it's a little overacted, but I mean, shit, dude. Point Break, that's good fucking Patrick Swayze, and that is some fun Keanu Reeves, and it's a really funny Gary Busey, and it's Lori Petty doing one of her best roles, and she has a lot of good roles, but I think Lori Petty's just fucking killer in there is like a femme fatale, a femme chameleon, because she can play both sides. But yeah, and then yeah, that second one just fucking ruined it for me. It just ruined it.
Oh yeah, and it's like yeah, yeah, it's like what's the, not to say that every movie needs to have like all of this intellectualism content and needs to hit every single box and needs to have a full on purpose, but like what's the point of these? You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
It's
right.
like it's confusing because it's like they don't quite update the original enough for me to believe that they want to like rebrand the film for a new audience or like
Excellent,
re-show the film
excellent
to a
point.
new audience. But
Absolutely.
also at the same time, it's like it's so weird. Does that make sense? It's so weird to me.
No,
They
it's
don't add
absolutely.
anything. They don't take anything away. They just kind of like remake the original
Yep.
thing.
It's
Like,
that regurgitate the
it's
stuff
the exact same. Which
and
I'll
on
talk about a film a little bit later when we get to like some good ones we like. But like, there's
oh
one
yeah.
remake that where I equally like the original and the new one because they're so vastly different from each other
Hmm.
that it's almost like they're two different films. And it's like, okay, that's cool. It's a remake, but it's giving something completely new to this movie and a new lens to look at it with, a new way to interpret it. It's a new visual style. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
But like
absolutely.
these are like replicating shots and it like the Total Recall, like it's almost the exact same shots they got with Colin Farrell that they got for like Arnold back in the, and it's just like they don't add anything, they don't take anything. It's so frustrating.
No, because that's just what makes it so easy, and that's just what happens when they
Because
can
it's
throw out these little niche formulas. Just, here, just do this and put it out there. We'll get enough money, and it's
yeah,
just they throw these out there to get spending their petty cash, and then well, they're busy funding blockbusters and giving elitists too much money. So it's
which
just
like it's almost like you like maybe a studio exec looked at Total Recall. Let's remake that and blah blah blah. Let's remake that so that we can have a new audience and we get easy sell. I feel like there is going to be a new narrative story out there somewhere by some screenplay writer that is going to have as much pull, as much draw as the original Total Recall, but is a new, different thing.
oh yeah, there's plenty of treatments out there. They just don't want to bother to look at them. They'd rather
Exactly.
appease the sheeple as opposed to the people.
It's very
You
strange.
know, so
Which ironically, I feel like there's less sheeple than they think there are.
there are the sheeple keep getting shorn and keep they become less and less. But now this I want to we had an interesting little chatter about this one beforehand because I was like I did not as much as I wanted to try and appreciate the new Ghostbusters. I struggled with it because I'm so used to our generation's about 15 years apart.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm so used to the Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Ghostbusters, and
Yeah, and I've
there's the
visibly
new one, and I just didn't. It was just weird for
yeah.
me.
So let me talk about it a little bit. Because
Please,
like
please.
I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I talked about it with like I talked about it with people who I wouldn't want to be talking about films with now. That's all I'll say. But like I've
Okay.
uh I've spent a lot of time like I've spent a lot more time, like, I've rewatched the original Ghostbusters a few times, and I will say, I do like it a lot more than I thought I liked it, but I will say, like, and it's interesting to me because, like, I wouldn't say I relate to the average, like, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy movie, so it's interesting to me how much I love the Ghostbusters movie, because I feel like they're similar enough where you think it's just the exact same thing as a normal Melissa McCarthy movie, but I think it's slightly more dynamic than that. I really, really appreciate the female relationships in Ghostbusters because, like, when I see all the women interacting and talking with each other and, like, the kind of, like, improv moments that they have together, like, that's exactly how me and my female friends talk to each other. That's how we relate to one another. That's the kind of jokes we make and things like that. So I just overall relate more to the women. I just relate more to the remake with the women as opposed to the older one. And that's not to say I don't relate to the older one at all. Cause like this one's like, I'm putting disclaimers because like people fucking lose their minds when they find out I like the 2016 Ghostbusters. And it's like, I like it because I relate to the experiences more. And that's not to say I don't relate to all of the men, but it's just I relate to the women in Ghostbusters on a completely different level. And that's just my own lens as a woman. I know there are plenty of women who would say that they feel the male relationships are more authentically shown than the female ones in the 2016, and that it's just like a box office blah blah blah. But I just really liked it. I like how all the women relate to each other. I like how all the women interact. The only really criticism I have of it is like, I wish Leslie Jones would have also been a scientist. Like, it's weird to me that they're like, one black woman, she is street smart. And I'm like, okay, why can't she just be a scientist too? But all right. But other
Yeah.
than that, I really like it. I just like it a lot. I like the
Well,
jokes. I like how they
yeah.
interact. I love this. I love that when she's like wasting all of the fucking ghosts at the end, like Kate McKinnon's character.
Hmm.
And like you have the big band Ghostbusters theme. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I'm looking at a copy of it on my movie shelf right now.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, that's kind of why I just relate to the experiences a little bit more on a completely fundamental, like, this is how I interact with the people around me. I relate to this movie kind
Oh
of
yeah.
way compared to the original.
Well, it's good. I mean, it fits the archetype,
Mhm.
and I think that's what makes it so much different. I think when
Yeah,
people when the new Ghostbusters came out, I think people were kind of going into it with that pre-assumption of the male archetypes that have been constructed
yeah,
with the originals, and I think it's unfair and it's not right to go into it with that mindset. You need to
yeah,
understand that this is a completely different character. It's a completely different archetype. Now, there's sprinkles of it, as you said, like there's three scientists and then there's the one person who's street smart, and so I think that's interesting because it's a way that the new one paid homage to the original.
yeah,
Because Ernie Hudson is the guy that just rolls in off the street and is just like, hey, if it pays, I'll take the job.
yeah.
And so I like how they kind of stuck with that archetype. And I mean, I've seen other
And
movies with this comedy group, like I've talked about like Bridesmaids. When I saw Bridesmaids, like that shit killed me. I thought it was hilarious, and I think that
I didn't vibe with
you didn't.
bridesmaids
I
as
thought
much.
I thought it was funny, but at the same time, like each one of the characters, I've seen them in other work, and they're all accomplished comedians. They're
Mhm.
very funny. They're very funny actors, each one of the women involved.
Their
And
SNL content,
oh yeah,
excellent.
and that's the thing. I think when you go into it, you know, um, with a lens with a feminine lens and looking at the archetype, that it totally makes sense, and it's good that there can be a film that um has the feminine in a strong masculine type role owning the screen, and then you have women that are drawn to it, such as yourself, and sit there and go, you know what, that's so relatable because that's me and my friends. And I think if
Yeah,
that's the goal of a film like that. So I can say, after hearing your argument and such, I can definitely say that in thinking about it that way, it's fair to say that it's a fair remake,
yeah.
and that
Well,
it's
and
not something that's bludgeoned.
yeah, and people took it like so personally. Like,
Oh,
and that was really interesting to me. Like, I appreciate that cinema can like resonate and reach people so much that they take it so seriously. But like, I think that the Ghostbusters remake is like also very mindful and respectful of the original, because it's not like they tried to just like, I could understand like the level of anger people had if they tried to like remake the exact same thing as Ghostbusters just with women. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? If you
yeah,
had the same
exactly.
shots going on and like the exact same situation and like the
Yep.
exact, if they're like, you know what, I could understand it then. But like, they gave everybody like the original Ghostbusters were involved in the creation of this one. Like they
Yeah,
were all in the
exactly.
movie. They were all excited about it. So I
Yeah.
don't know why everybody was like, "How dare they?"
Just because people are assholes. But speaking of being upset and saying how
Oh
dare
my
they, how
god, yeah,
about how about
let's get mad.
yeah, how about Stephen King being upset with like arguably one of Kubrick's greatest fucking films,
I'm
or his
notorious.
most complex films, The
Yeah, I'm
Shining.
notoriously very harsh on Stephen King.
Do
So
it.
we're gonna keep this very focused on
Oh
The
yeah,
Shining because I
I
could go
know.
off about
Oh,
Stephen
I know. It's just insane, but I mean,
but
because I had read I've read so much Stephen King because it was like some of my favorite books to read when I was a kid,
uh-huh.
and then but then The Shining is literally one of my favorite Kubrick films,
Yeah.
just because I appreciate that it's just this total this duality of the psyche,
Yeah.
and such, and if you compare it, I mean, God, anyone who's read the book, if you tried to put the book verbatim on screen, you would laugh at it. Like it would be funny. It's a
I
better story, for imagining, but what
mhm.
Kubrick did with it, and he uses parts of the book, but there's like a ton that he doesn't use, and that pissed King off so much. But The Shining, the remake, was, oh my God, it was terrible. It was like this two-part series on USA Network, and it
Oh
was
yeah,
one
it
of the
was a TV
most,
movie too. Yeah.
yeah, it was a fucking
Nothing against
TV
TV movies.
movie, dude. A TV movie, and it was just so horrific. You can't even really this is
Yeah.
like the polar fucking opposite of what we've been talking about, because we've been talking about like shot for shot and homage and everything. This fucking Shining TV movie two-part, uh, horrid afterbirth of a fucking remake,
Yeah.
this disgusting thing, was
Oh yeah.
like there's like nothing that you can relate. It was that horrible. It was just so polarizingly different that we just kind of went, the fuck.
Well, I love that point you made about like to go into this a little bit more because this is like my big spiel on the Shining movie. Like I loved what you said about like if you were to try and put the book directly on screen, it wouldn't make any fucking sense. Every single book person, like I hate artists with like that ego that's like there is a superior art form. And like you get that a lot with like book versus movie people,
Yeah,
where like they're like, the book is better, hashtag the book is better, the book is so much better. But like film is just a different medium. You talk to the audience in a different way by nature of how an audience interacts with what's being presented, the information being presented. Like you can't just directly translate a book and expect it to read exactly like the book on screen. Like
exactly.
you just really can't do it. Yes, you could try and emulate it and blah 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 or whatever, but they're different art forms and it's okay that they have to do different things to reach an audience. And it's so fascinating to me how Stephen King doesn't understand his own work on the level of like on the esoteric plane. And because I think it's such an excellent, it takes the overarching thesis of The Shining and
Yep,
puts that on screen as opposed to all of the details that like enhance the experience but don't really matter. Like Kubrick just kind of filters through the extra like he filters through the Christmas decorations on the tree to get to the actual Christmas tree itself.
yep,
Like, you know what I mean? And so his film is
absolutely.
just so much more effective on screen. But like, I don't understand why Stephen King got so fucking upset because Stephen King is arguably one of the biggest authors who has embraced translating his books into other mediums. So I don't know why he has such a fucking I don't know why he has such a vendetta against The Shining. Like, I don't know what that
So he said, is
well, and
that
then he wants to, and then he's like, and then he's sorry, not to cut you off, and then he's like, let's go ahead and make a movie now about the sun and blah, based off of this book that, like,
yeah,
what is that
it's
called? Doctor Sleep? Oh my
yeah,
god, I'm just so
Doctor Sleep.
confused. Which also uses the Shining footage and not the Shining TV movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just confused.
Yeah, because Doctor Sleep's like the second part essentially, and it's
Yeah,
just
I
kind
just,
of it's stupid. It's confusing, but yeah, it is what it is. It's such, it doesn't deserve any more of our time.
I
So
agree.
fuck
I
it.
agree. I'm not
Um,
saying you. This one's all you.
no, yeah, because this is just another one that hit me like the Psycho, Total Recall, Point Break area is Rollerball, because Rollerball is literally just like it's this insane cult classic with James Caan, and it's a movie. It's another one of those just iconic cult films. The original is just so the tempo, the pacing, the cutting, the drama, the life and death, the criticism, the socio-political criticism that you can enter the film from is just flat out incredible. And they made a remake one that was just so disturbingly sick and fucked and stupid that it doesn't deserve any time. It's just it's awful. Do not ever watch the Rollerball remake. Just get the original from the 70s with James Caan.
It
It's so
looks like, I'm
legit.
looking at the posters side by side, and it looks like a completely different genre of film. Like it looks like
It's yeah.
I'm
They
so
fuck. It's the true definition of why'd you go and fuck a good thing up. I mean, because that's what they did with the new Rollerball. They tried to everything we've already alluded to. They just choked up some freaking stomach bile and said, "Here you go, put it on tape," and bunch of jerk offs. And then, ah, the only thing that gets me more perturbed is Disney remakes. I freaking hate Disney remakes.
I put Mulan on the list. We don't have to talk about Mulan specifically, but
No.
Mulan just came out, and there was this woman who I got recommended on YouTube, and she is I think she's a, yeah, she's definitely a Chinese woman. She's a Chinese woman who made a YouTube account to talk shit about the Mulan movie.
Oh, that's
Was
beautiful.
so mad.
It's beautiful.
She was like,
That's
"This
the
is
thing. I
fucked
just
up."
yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm not gonna pay the $20 for it, but wait. But yeah, Disney
It's
remakes
just
are
the
interesting. They have a
no.
whole the live action thing so weird.
Yeah. The live action is just odd for me. I'm such an original Disney fan. I like the original cartoons. And I think it's just because I appreciate the painstaking process that went into that before everything became digitized. I mean, to draw up a cartoon film and to go through all those stills and stencils and coloring and stuff. I mean, that was such just an elaborate process. And I mean, I appreciate the cartoon Disney classics. And
Yeah,
when you get into this live remake stuff, it's just odd. But I mean, we know what kind of cliff Disney's gone off.
yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, they just
yeah,
fired every single employee. Like, what the fuck, Disney?
yeah,
Never. I'm
and
never getting hired in Hollywood. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Um, really quick though, I need to tell a story about the live action thing. So we were at the cigar bar for the closing night, like cast party, this theater thing I was working on, and the Oscars happened to be going on at the same time. Right. This is like a year or two ago, and we're all watching the Oscars, and a trailer for The Lion King comes up, and it's like all this stuff is like live action Lion King and blah 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 blah. And the director like has like he's like chewing on a cigar, right?
Mhm.
And he just stops and goes, "Wait a minute, it's not live action. They didn't film the animals. Still animated the animals. They just
Oh my
animated them
goodness.
to look more realistic. It's a live action."
Oh yeah.
And that's so funny to me because he's
It's
not
just yeah. It's just yeah, it's totally silly, but I mean, as much as we've beaten this shit up, then
wrong.
it got it deservingly so. There's also, like I said, to kind of wind it down here and to finish up, there's definitely there's good remakes,
Yes,
there's stuff that funk, that sweet, that nasty, that gushy stuff, right?
that WAP.
Mm. There you go. But we careful now if we got Italians listening. Fucking jerk. What is this, Blazing Saddles? Easy there, Marlena. Calm down. Easy, Lily. How dare you?
I caught you off guard.
Woo, it's Twoo.
Oh my god.
But I mean, there's the ones we alluded to in the beginning. Like I said, we can wind it down with some
I
good stuff,
think
to remind people that there's some special remakes out there. I mean, there's
yeah, I love this first one you put on the list, Nick,
because a
because
lot of people don't know.
yeah, a lot of people don't know it's a remake because it's so effectively like it takes kind of like the overarching point of the original Scarface
Yes.
and puts it actually in the time period. Like, I think the
Yes.
Scarface remake is a prime example of that. Like, let's update it for a new audience. Because when you watch the original Scarface, like, we're so far removed from, like, that
Yes.
whole prohibition era, like,
Yep.
like just after silent film. We're so far removed from that world that, like, yes, you can watch and enjoy Scarface, but you just don't understand it on a fundamental level. Like,
Yep.
just you're not going to, by nature of not living the experience and like seeing the movie. So it just does such an effective job at, let's just let's just stick it. It's the 80s, right? Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. Scarface, 80s, right?
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah,
you get
let's stick it in the 80s.
yeah, you pull out, you remove prohibition and you
Mhm.
insert cocaine,
Yes.
and you get rid of public enemies, and you bring in, Antonio Montana,
And like
right?
instead of like you get like another look at immigrants and things like that, and the American
Exactly.
dream and all of that.
Rise to
You get that
power.
same thing in both Scarfaces, but just through a different lens, and it's so well done.
Oh yeah, and then the other one, The Departed, that I mean
Yes.
that's another one that's just like you said with Scarface. It brings it into the era, and it makes it brings it into a more modern time. It makes it more relatable to the regulars, to our time, to our people, to our era. It makes it more specific. I mean, the one that surprised me though too was like a Casino Royale. That one surprised me because you look at the original, but it was our
I
introduction to Daniel Craig, and I think you spoke about it earlier though too, about the recycling of Bond.
Yes, yes, yeah. Because
Yes,
like,
yes,
yes,
speak,
I was gonna
yes.
ask another question first, though. I was gonna ask another question really quick though before I go
Creepy
on that.
Halloween laugh.
Yes, hey. I just, my whole brain just short circuited there.
No, I love
I
it
wanted
when
to
that
ask a question
happens.
first. So we're talking. Is the Bond Casino Royale a remake of the like Casino Royale with fucking everybody in it from like that psychedelic film? Is that what we're talking about? Because I was
No,
getting
no,
confused.
no. I'm talking about Bond, 007, that Daniel Craig
Gotcha. Because like yeah,
introduction
because
to
honestly,
the theory.
even from Connery into like even Connery into Lazenby into everybody else, whatever. Like
Roger Moore and yeah,
it's like
Timothy Dalton and
yeah,
fucking.
it's a little bit more Sean Connery, Roger Moore actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, but like
Oh
each
yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of new Bond, you can either perceive them in one of two ways. You can perceive them all as kind of like serials, kind of like Sherlock Holmes, where you have the same character going through different things. But you could also interpret it as like this franchise just kind of reimagining things through all of these vastly different men,
Hmm.
which is like it works for the way everything is set up in James Bond. You know what I mean? And
Oh
sometimes it
yeah.
works better than other times, but like the whole franchise in and of itself is kind of just based in the idea of remaking the original kind of concept. Like take Lazenby's From Russia with Love. Like that's pretty much every single Bond remade. Like you know what I mean? That's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much the
Just
template
remember.
for every
Hold on.
single Bond now,
I know. I know.
especially
Hold
Craig,
on.
like
Hold
you
on.
point out.
Hold on. You have to be careful. Wait. You'll have
Wait,
to edit that part.
what part?
The one you just said. Lazenby was only in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Fuck.
That's it.
Okay. Wait. No. No.
Okay.
No. I won't edit it out. I'll just say. I'll just correct it. Honor Majesty Secret Service is what I mean. But
Okay.
Honor Majesty Secret Service kind of serves as the template for the rest of Bond with this whole like Tracy and James Bond relationship,
Absolutely.
especially Casino Royale, and like as we go along now, which Bond also just got pushed back again from November to April.
Yeah, I saw that. And
Yeah.
then this other one here, I put Heat on there because a lot of people, that's another one kind of like Scarface, where a lot of folks don't realize that's a
Oh, I
remake.
don't even
And
realize.
even yeah, and it is. And even though another thing too is that it's like literally one of the greatest like gunfight scenes
Mhm.
ever in a film, with that insane shootout you have going on between like Kilmer and Pacino and everybody, and just ripping through downtown, and it like carries to the beach. It's kind of, but at the same time it's kind of like a little reminiscent of the original Point Break, and
Yeah.
the scene that goes on, that carries on with, Johnny Utah and Barry Busey chasing everybody. So it's interesting. um True Grit was actually a remake that I really
Yes.
enjoyed, and I think it was one of those ones that again was an improvement
It did a
on the
really good
original.
job.
It's one of those rare ones because it's like we were alluding to with Psycho and Total Recall and such, that it was like this kind of shot for shot kind of remake piece. Whereas with True Grit, I mean, they followed the story to a T, but they just brought it forward in a way and added. It's that slapstick element that we had
Yeah.
talked about in the past, when we were talking about Fargo and such and other Coen Brothers films, right? It's
Mhm.
just one of those things where the slapstick element that they put to it is always just so impressive. And I think that's a film that they looked at and they reimagined and just went, if we put a little slapstick element to this and put some really witty, smart characters in there, it makes it a really fun film. So I love the remake, but why don't you take us home with Suspiria so
Oh,
that and we'll
yeah.
hammer it out.
So Suspiria is very, very similar to something like to how I kind of described Scarface. So like the original Suspiria, it's Dario Argento. It's a giallo film. Giallo is a very, very specific genre of film.
I love
It's
genre.
like, it's characterized by like certain colors, certain types of death, things like that. It's a horror genre. It's kind of like a pulp horror genre.
Yeah,
And
giallo
like,
is the color yellow.
yes, because it's based
Yeah.
off of like yellow.
Hmm.
It's based off of like pulp novels, which I believe were called
Yes.
something that had to do with yellow. In
Yes.
I'm completely forgetting. Was it like the pulp novels themselves? Was it like yellow? Because I'm getting it confused with
Yes.
yellow
No, yeah.
journalism. What was the term? It
Yeah,
was.
you have it. It's Italian pulp novels.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you're
So,
right. Which is
so
and
yeah,
pulp is what we all understand is kind of like that that risque, that
you know,
fetishist,
yeah, the like the
that
marijuana mob,
edgy
I
side.
Robot,
Yeah.
the gods hate can like stuff like that,
Yes.
like that
Yes.
pulpy quality to it,
The fun
right?
stuff.
But this is horror kind of specifically.
Horror pulp. Yes.
Yeah, and so the original Suspiria, it's an excellent film. Like no matter who you
Yes.
ask, it's beautiful, it's fucking
It's
amazing.
yes, you told me about it and I remember watching it and then texting you right afterwards
You
and
were
I
like,
just
how did
went
I not?
I was like Suspiria is so fucking awesome. How did I
So
not
good.
know this? I believe that's when I told you to watch Boondock Saints too, but how's that going? Yep, that's what I thought. You can continue with Suspiria though.
Is Boondock Saints a remake of something? Because I
Oh,
don't know why
oh,
we're
here we go.
talking about it right now.
Oh yeah, there we go. I knew that was gonna happen. Eh,
But the remake of Suspiria, it takes that original kind of premise of Suspiria and strips it of everything that has to do with that original giallo coding and hyper minimalizes everything, and it just like it indulges in kind of like this kind of new horror genre that I see emerging a lot with things like this, things like Midsommar, where it's just very simple, yet when the moments of horror happens, it's so visceral. It's so viscerally disgusting on such a like in such a like Kubrickian level where like everything is kind of like boiled down to like all these basic functions of the human experience and the human reality,
mhm.
like basic things nobody talks about that we kind of experience. You know what I mean? Like bathroom, eating, sex, like those kinds of basic things. Like it takes the horror and it takes the sensationalized elements of it and it just kind of removes that and boils it down to this very like simplistic coding. And it's very, very interesting in that way. I also really they added a lot with Jessica Harper's in it, and she plays like an older woman in this. And like the through line with that older woman is so interesting because there's this really great feminist commentary in Suspiria, just period. But I really like the kind of thread they go with and how they go about it in the new one, where they kind of they add this interesting element of World War II and Nazism and all this stuff, where like she's been warning her partner about a lot of terrible things that are about to go on, right? She's like, I have red flags about all these situations, and he ignored her. And that's kind of a lot of the foundations for like this existential horror that this male figure is going through, and how these females are kind of recovering from that situation that he kind of forced his wife to be in. And so it's just a whole really interesting, it's wrapped up in a different package entirely, but it's similar in different packaging. And I love that. Like, because you would think in a remake of a giallo film, like, let's just up the ante. Let's go full Nicholas Winding Refn with it. Let's go balls to the walls color, balls to the walls. Let's make all the Suspiria stuff. Let's do that, but digitally and make it super cooler and blah, blah, blah. They just kind of left the original alone and completely recontextualized the new one. And that's the thing that I love about it so much.
No, that's what's nice about it when you can take the suspenseful complexity and just inject it into the simplicity of life rather than
Yeah,
being
yeah.
overly elaborate with your effort. You can just boil it down and dwindle it down to, instead of going overboard and trying to be so affixed on sensationalism, let's just kind of ease it in and inject this disturbing, this macabre theorem into the simplicity of life, and
Yeah,
from there
sometimes you gotta
it just makes it nicer, you know.
yeah, sometimes you got to understand that like you're not going to be better than certain originals, so just why try? Why not just, it's like watching Scarface. It's 100% like watching Scarface, where like you can watch the original and appreciate it, and you can watch the new one and appreciate it, and they don't actually like reflect upon each other. Like,
Hmm.
you're not watching the new Suspiria thinking, God, I wish I was watching the old one. You're not watching the new Scarface thinking, God, I wish I was watching the old one, because they recontextualize it in a different way. And that's what it's
Absolutely.
great.
That's what's nice about it. That was a good
Mhm.
talk. So now we always just say, you know, why'd you go and fuck a good thing up? Well, so Nick and Erynn can talk about it
So
on the
Nick
set.
and Erynn could talk about it. Yeah, so we can drag you for filth.
That was a good time though. We'll get it we'll do it again next week.
Next week, what are we talking about next week, Nick?
We're going to talk about, since we're kind of on all talking about remakes and things that go on, we're going to talk about franchises and just kind of ones that just continue on throughout the years. And some will have good criticism for, some will probably be not so good, but otherwise we'll talk about franchises that have gone on through my life and your life.
Yes, perfect. Well, we will see you guys next Saturday.
See you then.